Rev up your engines. People talk about how long Toyota pickups last. Well, this little old pickup, it was just called pickup. They didn't call them Tacomas till years later. This is a 1986 Toyota pickup, and it's pretty much all original. Now, you can see 80s American pickup trucks, but they're always done over. They've been restored. This is totally unrestored, as you can see, even the rust. They didn't coat them well back in 86, and they did rust. There's no arguing that. But interestingly enough, let's check out the frame. Solid as can be, even though it was made in 1986. Now later on, in the 90s, and sometimes even later, the Tacomas had problems with the frames rotting, because they weren't making them right. My son's got a 99 and the frame's half rotten off on it. But this is an 86. They actually were better built then. The frames do not have rust problems. Sure, the fenders do, you can see that. But you can get one of these fenders aftermarket for 45 bucks. Still got the old glass headlights. This fender's a little bit better. It's not quite as rusted. You can see side of the bed's rusting, but you can fix all that up if you want to. You can patch it up. The tailgate still opens. And maybe more importantly, it still closes. Still locks. And as you can tell, it hasn't been treated kindly. Body-wise, it's looking a little bit rough, but as we look inside, even though it's got 392,000 miles on it, check it out, it still starts right up. Right up. It's got a solid engine, even though it has a few holes in the exhaust. And the horn's been relocated. That doesn't work. It's over here now. It has the ultra reliable 4-speed standard transmission. And when we look under the hood, this isn't stock either. It's the ultra reliable 4-cylinder engine. This is an 86. They put in this 2.4 liter. It's got a lot of horsepower and can last a long time for this little bitty engine. This one's gone almost 400,000 miles so far. Original engine, original transmission, a mechanical fuel pump, a carburetor. No complicated fuel injection system. Just a simple 2-barrel carburetor, and it's the original carb too. Let's just say they don't make them like they used to. Original distributor on it too. Instead of plastic parts on your cooling system, that's metal, baby. That's not plastic. Oh, it is now on the second radiator, and the radiator's been replaced with the plastic one. No, yes, it is a small pickup truck. It even sounds like a small pickup truck, but small pickup trucks can handle quite a bit of stuff. Look at Ford. They come out with a new Maverick pickup. It's a small pickup truck. This actually has a longer bed than the Ford Maverick does. And back in the 80s, everybody was worried about people stealing gas, so there's a lock on the gas flap here. It just says Toyota. They didn't call them anything. They weren't called Toyota Tacomas. They were just called Toyota pickup trucks. And sure, they sound a little tinny. Don't have any insulation whatsoever. They were making them bare boned. But hey, bare boned or not, almost 400,000 miles later, this baby still runs pretty good. Flip of the switch, out you go. No backup camera. I took the brake off. Off it goes. No power steering either. This is a basic truck. Away we go. That engine still sounds strong. Little hesitation there. Didn't let it warm up right. Carburetors are somewhat temperamental. It really doesn't rattle all that much for an old pickup. That Mercedes-Benz I did the other day rattled more than this. And now it's on the country where it belongs. And we'll see what kind of horsepower this thing has left. Well, here we go. A little backfire. Just bought it for like 1,200 bucks. Hasn't done any work at all. The exhaust needs a little patching up, and I'd probably rebuild the carburetor, but it still tracks down the road straight, no hands on the wheel. Still a real solid little pickup truck. Heck, if it was 4-wheel drive, I'd take it to the cornfield here. After all that messing around, still idles perfectly fine. It would be nice if it had power steering though. It'd be a lot more fun to drive with a little power steering. And as we drive around, you hear there's no bearing noises. Don't hear any roaring bearings. The brakes work perfectly fine. It's a very simple, small economy truck that can just keep going and going. My son saw a whole bunch of these when he was stationed in Afghanistan. But the Taliban were driving them. Even they knew they made good trucks. I mean, just listen to this thing. Almost 400,000 miles. It's still purring along. They hold up well. It hasn't been through multiple engines or transmissions. It's all still original. So, that idle's this smooth. Seat's worn out, but the engine and transmission isn't. Check it out. The AC still blows. An 86 pickup. The frame's still solid. Engine and transmission are still solid. It drives good. It handles good. I mean, he got a heck of a deal for $1,200, but it shows the quality of these old pickup trucks. Now, probably that quality will never be matched again. Everybody's going for cheaper. Look at the problems they had with a bunch of their frames later on, years later. They went cheaper, didn't make the frames as good, and they rotted away. Not these old things. We're talking about ultra quality. At one point in time, people in the United States, the American manufacturers, were complaining that Toyota was dumping these pickups and losing money selling them in the United States. Well, I don't know about that one way or the other. I just know the people that bought them sure got value for their money. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Ramelli says, I think I burned a fuse because I put a screwdriver in a cigarette lighter and I saw a spark. I need to replace the fuse, but I can't figure out which one it is. Most fuse boxes have labels. You didn't mention what car you have. Just Google location of cigarette lighter fuse on your car. Here's something you have to realize. Some cars actually have a fuse for the cigarette lighter behind a cigarette lighter assembly. Where you take it out, you'll find there's a special fuse there because those things take a lot of power. A lot of times they have their own fuse that's inside there. So do research on your car, and if you find out it's one net, then you got to take some of the dash apart. Or if you got a small head, unlike my giant head, crawl under there and get behind there and follow the wires. You see there might be a fuse there. Some of them, the fuse is behind the dash, and then you just replace the fuse and pray that it didn't ruin anything else, because there's a lot of power in those things. I've seen guys do that, and they'll destroy the body control module of the car, then all kinds of things stop working. Don't stick screwdrivers into your cigarette lighter. Not a smart idea. There's power in there. It's not going to hurt you because it's only 12 volts. You do that in the house, stick it in a socket, it'll kill you, right? But in the car, it's only 12 volts, but you can do a lot of damage to the car. Like I said, including the body control module. Nurse Dad says, I got a surging Camry engine. I got an 04 Camry, and I'm the original owner. It surges and acceleration. It just seems weird. Replaced oxygen sensor, did a bunch of other stuff, tuned it up. I recently unhooked the battery, and the surging got even worse. But then it went away. And then it comes back. You got to start with all the basic stuff. Make sure the air filter's clean. Fuel filter. You already changed the spark plug, so it's not that. But surging, you got to find out why it's surging. Pay a mechanic like me. We hook up our scan tool. If you're running rich, that can make it surge. That can be leaking fuel injectors or fuel injectors that need cleaning. But it could also be the opposite. If it runs too lean, it'll surge. That can be a clogged fuel filter. That's why I say change the fuel filter. It could be a fuel pump that needs replacing. You got to find out why it's doing that. And mechanics like myself, we hook up our fancy scan tools. You've seen my new Think car when it's unbelievable. It records the data, all the parameters, you can play them back. And let's say running too lean. Then I'd know, okay, why is it running too lean? Does it have an air leak somewhere? You'd be able to figure out. You can't just guess. You can, but it gets expensive fast. That's why you do the obvious: air filter, fuel filter, spark plugs. And then if it's past that, then you're probably better off going to a mechanic than guessing with very expensive parts. Because, I mean, you could have a fuel injector that's weak. My machine would show that. It would see fuel injector 3 wasn't working right. It would see 1, 2, and 4 would be green, but the data for 3 would be red. And then I'd know, okay, that's where the problem lies. And then I'd start to investigate. You don't want to guess, but you can do the obvious things: air filter, fuel filter, spark plugs, all that stuff first. Then get it analyzed if that doesn't fix it. AE101 Life says, I got a 98 Toyota and it dies low and shuts off randomly once every few days. I see you put spark plugs and distributor cap mount wires, all that stuff. It happens once every few days. Therefore, it's probably tied in with carbon buildup, dirt buildup. I've got a video, make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. Start there. Get mass airflow cleaner. Get throttle spray cleaner, clean the throttle and the mass airflow sensor. That video shows exactly how you can do it. You can do it in 10, 15 minutes. No big deal. Cost you maybe $20 for the 2 cans of spray cleaner, and it'll last you for years. You can use it on all your cars. The problem is, when I was young and cars had carburetors, when you tuned them up, you'd clean the carburetors, spray and stuff, and away you go. Now everything's fuel injected and computer run. People say, well, you know, you don't have to do anything to it. But you do. They will still carbon up. They'll get dirt in them. So you need to clean those systems every once in a while. Maybe once every 2 years or 3 years, but it needs to be done. And I mean, let's face it, you got a 1998 Toyota. That's an old vehicle. Start by doing all that cleaning stuff. You tried the spark plugs and stuff, they didn't fix it. It's a Toyota. I can just about guarantee you, since it's random, that it's dirt and corrosion. If it happened all the time, it could be a vacuum leak, because a vacuum leak is always there, sucking air. And it's going to be random. It's going to happen all the time. But with dirt and corrosion, sometimes the throttles will stick, sometimes they won't. I can guarantee you, do that cleaning and it'll stop doing it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.